If you didn't already know that socialists destroy everything they touch, take a look at this.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate, but who don't actually live here.
Now, for those of us with even an inkling of economic literacy, we all know that what he's saying isn't going to work because it's been tried over and over again for nearly a century at this point, and it never works, unless, of course, you have the one sole global superpower, i.e. the United States, paying for your defense, in which case then, yeah, you can afford these social welfare programs. But, you know, when the piper comes to be paid, well, you're going to have to make cuts, and it's going to be those because, again, this is not a viable form of governance. But beyond that, like I said, we already know that. The thing that we're talking about today is the building that Zoran is standing in front of, because that is the second home, I believe, of a gentleman. I don't know if he's a gentleman. We'll say a guy named Ken Griffith, who is the CEO of Vornado, a massive multi-billion-dollar company that has recently started moving their global headquarters, or a secondary global headquarters, I believe, into New York City. And as you can imagine, Mr. Griffiths is not particularly happy about Zoran making a commercial in front of his home, especially in the wake of, you know, a wealthy man being assassinated on the streets of New York, only blocks away from said home. And, well, can you guess how he reacted?
Yeah. How many times have you watched that video?
Three.
What are you going to do about it?
I couldn't help myself.
You had to what?
I had to go back and look at it again. I mean, like, you literally look at the first time and you're like, you got to be kidding me. Okay? And then the second time you're like, you know what, this has gone from creepy to actually not really creepy. This has gone frightening because, you know, the CEO of United Healthcare was killed just a few blocks from my house. And anything that creates like an agitation in the extremist on either side of the aisle is a frightening dynamic. I mean, you know, if we look at what happened in D.C.
Well, that sounds like he's pretty displeased with this whole commercial situation. Let's take a look and see how displeased he is.
So where does that leave us at 350 Park?
That leaves us with the fact that we went to Miami and revised our building plan to make it a bigger office building.
Wow.
You're bailing?
So what do we do at 350 is still a point of discussion internally. But what is no longer a point of discussion is that Miami is now, you know, when we moved from Chicago, there was a debate between New York and Miami. It's unquestionably true that we made the right choice. I'll leave it at that. It's unquestionably true that we made the right choice. And now what the mayor of New York has made clear to my partners, and principally my New York partners, is that we need to double down on our bet in Miami, because we want to be in a state that embraces business, that embraces education, that embraces personal freedom and liberty, and that embraces people having an opportunity to live the American dream.
Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the history and or incapable of reading between the lines, what's going on here is this company already fled the city of Chicago in order to escape the disastrous tax and budget policies of Mayor Brandon Johnson, who he himself is, I don't even know that I would call him a socialist. He's just an authoritarian. Anyways, that's not the point. They escaped that city in hopes of finding a more favorable economic environment. And for whatever reason, they chose to go to New York, which was obviously a bad idea, at least obvious to anybody with any common sense or understanding of who these folks actually are. I mean, the left in this sense. But they chose New York over Miami for whatever reason, only to find that New York would then vote into power a mayor who is also an extreme left-wing socialist that does not understand economics, much less people. And now they're going to pay for it. So, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to escape New York and head on down to Miami. And this isn't the first time that socialist left-wing extremists over in New York State or city have caused harm to the city through their policies. Let's take a look at how many jobs exactly New York stands to lose. because of this situation, let's say.
Memo obtained by CNBC, Citadel said that targeting Griffin showed, quote, ignorance and disdain towards contributors to the city's economy. Citadel highlighted that its employees, including non-residents, have paid nearly $2.3 billion in New York City in state taxes over the past 5 years. And the memo pointed to the firm's planned redevelopment of 350 Park Avenue, a project expected to generate about 6,000 construction jobs and more than 15,000 permanent roles, with spending to exceed $6 billion. And I think if you really read the memo carefully, there's a little bit of a threat in there.
So on top of billions of dollars of tax revenue lost by the socialists shooting themselves in their own foot, essentially, they are screwing 15,000 New Yorkers out of a weekly paycheck. And it's not like this is the first time that an extreme left-wing socialist over in New York has screwed over thousands of their own residents, thousands of their constituents, by denying access to a company.
Amazon officially announced it will not be building an additional headquarters in New York. In a statement, the company said, quote, a number of state and local politicians have made it clear they oppose our presence and will not work with us. Amazon was planning to build a second headquarters in Long Island City, Queens. It says it will still proceed as planned to build headquarters in Virginia and a hub in Nashville. Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was a fierce critic of Amazon coming to New York. She called the news today incredible.
It shows that everyday Americans still have the power to organize and fight for their communities, and they can have more say in this country than the richest man in the world.
That right there, that Amazon facility, that was supposed to be 20,000 jobs. That's 20,000 New Yorkers that would have had a weekly income, a weekly check. And granted, it might not have been enough. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to defend Amazon in any way, shape, or form. Bezos, he's not a great guy. They could most certainly pay more. You know, they're not paying the same as Walmart distribution centers. We got a True Value distribution center. Both Walmart and True Value distribution centers within 30 miles of me, and both of them pay, I think, about the same here in a rural community that Amazon wants to pay warehouse workers in major metropolitan areas where they obviously need more money. So do not mistake this as a defense of Amazon. What it is a condemnation of politicians screwing their constituencies out of literally tens of thousands of jobs.
We'll talk about our future direction in New York. Here's the real question. Is New York going to put their fiscal house in order and run itself from a position of a strong government that's pro-business? Or are they looking to play, why do the Americans think we can do socialism? We have none of that in our DNA, and we're just going to screw it up.